Emergencies are unpredictable, but you don't have to be unprepared. Peak Alerts sends you targeted emergency alerts in real time for the places that matter to you most, so you know what's happening and what to do next. Know first, act fast. That's the power of Peak Alerts.
Good morning, crew. It is Friday. We are sitting here on February 6th, heading into Super Bowl weekend. And, Broncos fans, I think we're still mourning about that. But thanks for joining me here live on Mornings with Meister on the Peaks2Plains Weather app, on Peaks2PlainsWeather.com, on social media, on YouTube. Wherever you are is where I am, weather when you need it. That's the concept here of Peaks2Plains Weather. And thanks for starting your day off with me. I appreciate it. Got a big weekend planned myself, and I hope you do too. I've got my mug going here early this morning, and I want to talk about American Classics Coffee. They're my official coffee provider here. I'm on a new roast. I haven't tried this yet. It's the Yosemite Dark Roast. And I was like, it kind of tastes like nuts. And then I looked down at the taste notes and it says roasted almond. So Spence is knocking it out of the park with these things. I love his coffee. It is so good. You can get some yourself on his website, AmericanClassicCoffee.com. Put Peaks in the checkout and you get 10% off. So thanks, Spence, for doing that for Peaks2Plains crew members. Let's talk a little bit about weather here, crew. And I'm going to start off with yesterday because it was gorgeous yesterday. Oh my gosh. From the peaks to the plains, it was fantastic. See what I did there? But here's a look at Monarch yesterday afternoon. Just a couple thin high clouds moving in. Was super, super nice regardless of where you were. We hit 70 in Lamar on Thursday. Thought about getting there in some other places across the eastern plains. Pueblo, we topped out at 65. Almost hit 60 in the Springs, and we were working on it in Pagosa as well. And it's just been really, really warm and nice around here. Early this morning, typical temperature variations on the warm side of things up against the eastern slopes of the Rockies, which is usually where it's warmest this time of year. We do have 40s for Canyon City and for Walsenburg. But notice the cooler air sitting along the Arkansas River. Pueblo, La Junta, Lamar, Ordway, we're all sitting in the 20s early this morning. So there's some temperature differences out there for sure, and you notice them even more in the big mountain valleys where Alamosa and Gunny are in the single digits barely, and up against the hills in the San Luis Valley. Saguache is sitting at 23, so just kind of depends where you are. Most of us within a couple degrees of what we had yesterday, and as we move through the day today, I think it's going to be pretty similar actually to what we had yesterday, so really, really nice out there. I'm highlighting Fountain here on our day planner. I think we're into the 50s between 9 and 10 o'clock in quite a few areas, spending a lot of hours here around 60 in the Pikes Peak region. Getting you out the door early this morning. Denver, it is 30. If you're traveling up to the Mile High City, no issues out there. Castle Rock, the volume is picking up here. It's 39, so a little bit warmer up on the Palmer Divide. Monuments in the 40s this morning. There's not much in the way of wind around the area. I mean, you see it's calm there at Highway 105 and I-25. We do have a little bit of a breeze at Interquest and I-25 early this morning as we sit at 32. So, the temperature is running about 10 degrees different up across the Front Range here. And, that's what we've got out there early this morning. Thought I took that out, but I guess I didn't. Falcon this morning sitting at 40. Good morning to you in northeastern El Paso County. Up the pass in Cascade, it's 27. And on top of the hill, it is 33 in Woodland Park this morning. So just kind of depends where you are, as is typical for southern Colorado. Kathy's checking in early this morning, and she says hello. It's Friday. I'm with you, Kathy. Yay. Love my Broncos, but the party will still go on. Going for the Seahawks, she says. I get that. I think the Seahawks, I think everybody agrees they're kind of the more complete team. And, you know, I don't think the Patriots expected to be here this fast. But, you know, they've had a good year and certainly had that game against the Broncos where, you know, we kind of fell flat a little bit because of what was happening. But, you know, we are excited to see what happens here this weekend. I'm a big football guy, so football, Super Bowl weekend for me is pretty big deal. Kathleen says good morning and happy Friday. Good morning, Kathleen. I want to let you know about a couple things here on Peaks2Plains Weather as we continue to grow. Been meeting with lots of people who want to partner with Peaks2Plains Weather, and I am so honored about that. And they are making Peaks2Plains Weather available to you, helping me keep the lights on. But I'm helping them grow their businesses. And so there are a couple places that you can see who is supporting Peaks2Plains, who I'm partnering with, and I want to let you know about that now. So I want to take you to peaks2plainsweather.com. On the top right-hand corner, there is an Advertise tab if you're interested in doing that, but there is a Partners tab. And these are all of the businesses that I am partnering with to help them grow, to help get the word about what they are doing. I want to highlight Mandy Penn Photography this morning. Mandy is great. Some of the pictures that I've got that I'm using for Peaks2Plains Weather, she took. She did some work when I was at the former TV station. She has won Best of the Springs multiple times. What she's really good at is just kind of making you comfortable in the shoot. And when you do that, your personality comes out. So Mandy, thanks for doing that. Mandy Penn Photography, and she is great, and I highly recommend her. She's awesome at what she does. So let's talk a little bit about the weekend forecast here. And I'm going to head over to the weather wall to do that because we've got a little bit of some differences starting to emerge here over the next couple of days. And I want to talk about what those are here as we move toward our weekend, because I know you probably have things that you want to do outside. So our weather being driven here by this big area of high pressure that's over the Great Basin, the Intermountain West, from Colorado up into Wyoming. But you do see that there are some showers off to our southwest, catching a little bit of rain in Arizona. Of course, the Waste Management Open is this weekend in Phoenix, has the craziest hole in golf on the 16th, that par 3, where people are just out of their minds. Like, I mean, they're imbibing, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. They've had some showers lift off to the north. That thing over the weekend really isn't going to impact our weather other than throw us some high clouds. We're dominated by this thing today, and we're kind of right under the high, so wind isn't going to be too much of an issue. And the jet stream driving everything is well up to the north. See the black lines and the flow lines that I've got on here? These are my streamers showing you what the air is doing up at about 18,000 feet where the airplanes fly. I look at that because that drives what we experience at the surface. So there's nothing to really move this area of low pressure. So we get another really good day. Banjo's barometer, my easy to understand 0 to 10 scale of if it's going to be nice or not. I had a 10 yesterday. Today I'm going to go with a 9. I couldn't make myself do 10s 2 days in a row. But Banjo, he's ready for the walk to get out there and enjoy another really good day across southern Colorado, because we're back into the 60s. I do think we lose a degree or two across the board from yesterday. I'm not sure you'll notice it, but on the thermometer, Divide and the Raton Mesa, up to around 15 miles per hour, which isn't much. something you'll notice, a little bit different than yesterday because we hardly had any wind across the area. As we head overnight, we do see some breezes continue over the plains. That's going to help to keep the temperatures up. Then as we move into Saturday, a difference here is that we do get breezier over the mountains compared to what we'll have out there today. So like I said, there are some sort of subtle day-to-day differences here in the forecast that I want you to be aware of, but in terms of anything critical, anything that's going to stop any plans, I don't have that in the forecast at all. We're still in the 20s and 30s overnight tonight. Tomorrow, we get some areas into the 70s and higher into the 60s. In fact, I think we probably be right around 70 for a lot of the region from about Pueblo off to the east. And then you get up against the higher terrain. Numbers come down a little bit, but cruise still well above seasonal averages by about 15 to 20 degrees. In fact, Alamosa today or tomorrow might get a high temperature record. We'll see. But we stay in the 40s and 50s for the mountain areas. What's different on Saturday, in addition to some of the wind over the hills, I do think high clouds are a little more noticeable. And there's a better chance, especially off to the southeast of Colorado Springs, so Pueblo, Walsenburg, Trinidad, out for you guys around Los Animas, out toward Eads, Cheyenne, Wells, of the clouds being thick enough that maybe they impact the feel a little bit. The farther northwest you go, I don't think that's going to be the case. So that's something to be aware of because I'm all about the feel here. Right? And you see, as we get into tomorrow, looking at the numbers for Colorado Springs here on the big grid breakdown, some breezes today, especially, I talked about that up across the Palmer Divide. But temperatures don't move much from a day-to-day basis here. We do see a little bit of high clouds moving through, but this is just really, really nice weather rolling on here as we head into the weekend. So some really, really good stuff on the way for any outdoor plans that you have or anything like that, crew. It's going to be good. All right, time to check in with our crew here on social media because we've got lots of you checking in here. So let's say hi to Isaac this morning, who says, my daughter and I always watch the game and then camp out in the yard. That's a fun tradition. That sounds cool. Doesn't she have to go to school on Monday? Hey, nothing wrong with that. Barb says Sunday's forecast is not football weather. I don't disagree with that in any way, but it is going to be fantastic to be outside. So Scott says, great Friday on the way here. Scott, thanks for checking in here early this morning. I appreciate it. Last thing I want to do here this morning is talk about the extended forecast. Because as I woke up this morning and I started looking at things here, next week started to look a little bit different, at least in the models. And I don't want it to because we need snow in a big way. We are still historically low on our snowpack, my friends. It's not good up there in that way. We are 55% of average. So we're way down and we're still at the low end. We are the bottom of the data set. So we need, some stuff in a big way. We need a really, really active pattern. And we have a change on the way next week. Let's talk about it here. So this ridge that we've got eventually is going to break down. And it's going to take into early next week. You see that system I talked about off to the south, not really doing anything to our weather over the weekend. But then we start to get some energy in the western U.S. and some troughing to develop, which is opposite of the ridge. Instead of the black lines that I show you having a big bump up to the north, you get this dip to the south. Those are the storm systems. You see the energy associated with that. And then as we get into next week, the change is what you just saw. And I'm going to go back and show it to you here. So watch what happens from Tuesday through Thursday. See how we have this little ridge from Colorado Springs down to Albuquerque? And the wave that's over the western U.S. on Tuesday, I'm going to go back again, kind of kicks off to the north here, and this ridge holds. That's way different from how it's looked the last couple of days. And then we get another sort of low off the coast of California behind it. I'm not going to change my forecast yet because that's so different. I want to see that for another couple runs of the model before I latch onto that because it's been pretty consistent here for the last several days. in bringing that system across Colorado. So I don't like how that's changed, because that's not what we want. Because watch what happens here. With that northern movement of it, you see most of the snow stays up to the north, which isn't good because we need the snow. And then maybe some moisture for the mountains late Thursday into Friday. So I'm going to show you what the model is doing here over the next almost week with snow, given this change that it made. Kind of keeps everything up to the north, which is bad news. That's not what we need around here. But I haven't changed my forecast yet. I'm going to keep that storm in the forecast here on the extended. So let me show that to you here for Colorado Springs. Over the weekend, we keep the temperatures really, really warm here. We start to bring the numbers down early next week. And then I'm going to keep that storm in the forecast for Thursday. And if, this afternoon the model still kind of looks like what it did, I might have to change it. But we need the water and the snow so bad. So here's another thing to look at behind what we have coming next week. And this is about Thursday after that. You're looking at two computer models here. And this gets confusing because we start looking at ensemble forecasts. So let me take a second and tell you what ensembles are. Before I do that, I'm going to take a short break. And we're going to hear a word from one of my sponsors.
Another attorney commercial with big promises? Millions of dollars, practicing law 24 hours a day, blah, blah, blah. Let's get rid of the smoke and mirrors. None of that really matters. What does matter? Having a medical doctor as your attorney. That matters.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Ramos Law. And let's go back to what an ensemble is. So we have a computer model, and let's talk about the American one here out of these two as an example, okay? So we have this computer model, but before you run it out into the future to get forecasts, you have to put information into it now, like the surface temperatures that we're measuring, what satellites are seeing, what weather balloons are seeing. So you have these initial conditions. Then you start running the mathematical calculations, and you get forecasts out into the future for all these different points. So we do that, and that's a deterministic run of the model. You get one solution. Well, an ensemble tweaks one little input, the initial conditions, just a little bit, and then runs that model out again. And then we tweak another initial condition just a little bit and run that out into the future. And we do that a couple dozen times. And so you get a bunch of series of forecasts from, again, in this example, we're talking about the American model. Then what you do, and what we're looking at here, is you average all of those different runs out to kind of see what subtle changes that we might not have caught on the front end could do to the forecast, and you get this idea. So we're looking at 500 millibars here. This is the mid-level of the atmosphere. It's about 18,000 feet on average. And, I'm always showing you these black lines and everything. And the blue that you see is both computer models, the average of the ensembles, showing that they think the 500 millibar pressure surface, how high that is in the atmosphere, is going to be lower than it normally is on average this time of year. What that tells us is it's seeing some colder air, it's seeing some troughiness, chance of storms. Again, so that's about a week after this next one that should be coming late next week that I'm hopeful works out. Because, man, we need snow in a big way. So, crew, I hope you have a great day. Anytime you want the forecast, Peaks2Plains Weather app, download that. And Peaks2PlainsWeather.com. I am going to be adding a couple of things to that here through the weekend. I'll talk more about those when we get those added next week. Of course, social media as well. YouTube, the Peaks2Plains Weather channel on YouTube has a lot of information on there, some of the daily forecasts that show up in the app. Again, I'm just in different places. Wherever you are is where I want to be. If you ever have any suggestions for what I'm doing, please let me know. You can do that on social media. You can use the Contact Us page on the website. And my friends, weather's smooth sailing here, so you might as well get outside and enjoy it, right? Thanks for joining me here on this Friday morning. I will see you live coming up next Monday, every Monday through Friday, 6:30. We do live mornings with Meister, and I'll have updates 24 hours a day on Peaks2Plains Weather. Have a good one.